All right, let's get right into the story for today. So, we're going to be talking about the current feud going on between Trump and the woke bishop. Now, the feud started off when she got a little too political during her sermon at the National Prayer Service. And I think you guys might find this clip interesting, especially coming from a bishop. Roll the clip.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land.
Okay, so that's Bishop Mariann Edgar Budde. It really amazes me how leftists can be so bold, you know. In the middle of the sermon, she calls on Trump to have mercy on illegal migrants and the LGBTQ community. So, a little information about this priestess. She's 65, first female leader at this Episcopal church in D.C., and she's been there since about 2011. Now, she made headlines after urging Trump during her sermon to show mercy, like I said before, for gay, lesbian, and transgender children from all political, backgrounds. So, she added, some of whom have fear for their lives. She also used her sermon to ask that Trump grant mercy to families fearing deportation. She also emphasized the contribution of immigrants, stating the mass majority of immigrants are not criminals. And then she added, they are good neighbors and they are faithful members of our churches, mosques, and synagogues and temples. So full flaming leftist priestess. And this is actually not the first time that Trump and her have butted heads. Okay, so she wrote an opinion piece for the New York Times back in 2020, June of 2020. Now, we all know what was going on in the summer, June of 2020. That was the George Floyd riots, or peaceful protests. Excuse me for my bigotry. Now, she bashed him and his administration in this opinion piece, but I can't show it to you because I do not have a New York Times subscription. But the main thing that she bashed him for was holding up a Bible for a photo right after he used force to clear a crowd of peaceful protesters. You see how they added in peaceful protesters who were demonstrating against the death of George Floyd. Okay, actually, we have a clip of her at the protests. Go ahead and roll the clip.
Systemic justice for all brown and black people who have been under the knee of this country in ways that we have witnessed time and again. This is wrong. And this rising up, this spontaneous uprising of people mostly half my age or younger. They're the ones we should be listening to.
And they're angry at the president.
They're so angry.
They're angry at the president. So what is your message to President Trump today?
Well, I've given up speaking to President Trump. We need to replace President Trump. We need leadership that will lead us in the ways that this country deserves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are upset about the fire as well, but that is not our primary focus. Our primary focus is the fundamental reasons behind the protests in our country right now. There is a deep desire for the fundamental issues at stake brought to light by the murderous death of George Floyd and the countless others that we've witnessed in this long string of violence against Black and brown people, that needs to be addressed in a systemic, fundamental way in the from every police department in the country and the vigilante civilian actions that are taken. The gospel of Jesus and the teachings of the scripture are antithetical to the messages that he is communicating and the way he's responding to people in this moment, and that there is no spiritual mantle of authority for the actions that he had just moments before said that he would take.
All right, so there was no logic in the previous statement that she made whatsoever. What do you expect a president to do in a crowd? Just wade through like it's a pool? Are you sure about that? You want the president to just walk through a peaceful protest with no security? Like, yeah, go get on a commercial flight, Mr. President. You should be good. Go negotiate peace by yourself. Don't worry about it. Leftists have no sense of the need for security in very many aspects. Okay, so recently she decided to go on The View and double down on her politics. Take a look.
You seem to have more fearlessness than anyone in Congress right now, ma'am. What made you decide to use that opportunity for this message, or didn't you have any apprehension about it?
My response, thank you, first of all, for allowing me to be with you today. My responsibility yesterday morning, was to reflect, to pray with the nation for unity. And as I was pondering what are the foundations of unity, I wanted to emphasize respecting the honor and dignity of every human being, basic honesty and humility. And then I also realized that that unity requires a certain degree of mercy and compassion and understanding. And so knowing that a lot of people, as I said, in our country right now are really scared, I wanted to take the opportunity in the context of that of service for unity to say we need to treat everyone with dignity. And we need to be merciful. I was trying to counter the narrative that is so divisive and polarizing, and in which real people are being harmed.
Okay. Bishop, predictably, you seem to strike a nerve. President Trump initially said yesterday it was, quote, not a good service, unquote. But overnight, he took to social media to say you were a, quote, radical left hardline Trump hater, unquote, that you brought the church into politics and that you owe your church and the public an apology. Now, given your role, it doesn't seem surprising that you would speak out for the marginalized, as anyone who's read the Bible and knows the path of Jesus. But do you think your message is being misconstrued and politicized?
Well, sure. Yeah. But I think if you read what I said, and how could it not be politicized, right? We're in a hyper-political climate. One of the things I caution about is the culture of contempt in which we live that immediately rushes to the worst possible interpretations of what people are saying and to put them in categories such as the ones you've just described. That's part of the air we breathe now. And I was trying to speak a truth that I felt needed to be said, but to do it in as respectful and kind a way as I could. And also to bring other voices into the conversation, which voices that had not been heard in the public space for some time.
Okay, but let's look at what she actually said in her speech. She asked for mercy for trans kids and illegal migrants. So what she's asking for basically is for Trump to allow gender affirming care for minors, basically. And we already know that a majority of American people favor a federal ban on transgender procedures for minors. So you can't stand up there and call this a unifying speech when most of the country already disagrees with you and does not support this policy. This is actually more divisive, and it's just leftists saying, oh, do what we want, and then we can have unity. Now, on the topic of immigration, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. The American people clearly support mass deportations. Play the clip.
Sometimes I like blunt questions because they sort of get at the underlying feelings that people have. So this is about as blunt a question as you can get. Deport all immigrants here illegally. I will note the ABC News poll asked about undocumented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deport all immigrants who are here illegally, 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters.
So if they say yes today-ish, how has that changed over time?
Yeah, this is where I think you get very interesting. And so we'll take a look at that ABC News question in particular, because you can really see that there's been a massive shift from when Trump was first getting into office 8 years ago, right? Deport all undocumented immigrants. You go back to 2015, I'm going to come to your side of the screen, it was 42%. Hello. Go to 2016, it was 36%. Look at where we are now. This was taken at the end of last year, 56%. This is 20 points higher than it was just before Trump got into office the first time. So feelings towards immigration in this country, feelings towards undocumented immigrants and deporting all of them have become considerably more hawkish. And I think that gives Donald Trump much more leverage to go with the American people and sort of have these hawkish, some might say harsh, different rhetoric and also issue-based sort of going after immigrants who are here illegally. And so I think the American people are going to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt to do what he wants to do, at least if you believe these blunt questions, including this one.
How about immigration levels?
Yeah, okay. So this sort of goes in line with that, right? Which is, again, trying to get at the underlying feelings. Want immigration levels decreased. This includes legal and illegal immigration. Look at this. Last year, 55%. That is the highest level since the 9/11 aftermath. You go back just to 2020.
This again, legal and illegal. So people want less people coming into the country.
Exactly. They want less people coming into the country. Look at that. That's a 14-point rise from 2023. You go back to 2016 when Donald Trump again was running for president the first time. It was 38%. That's a 17-point rise. So the bottom line is more folks want people who are here illegally deported, and their overall feelings towards immigration have become considerably more hawkish since Donald Trump was first getting into office, Kate.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
All right, so clearly this bishop is being more divisive than anybody else. There's no debating on whether or not Americans support mass deportations or not. The numbers are there. Trump's stance on both these issues is actually more unifying than what the bishop is proposing. And the church is no place for politics. And if you ask me, I don't know who organized this prayer, but a female bishop should have been a dead giveaway and a no-go, in my opinion. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below on this whole issue. I'm curious to know your thoughts. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.